There's loads of different types of indoor trainers available, but what's the difference between one costing £160 and one costing £3,500? We're about to find out.
Our channel sponsor Garmin has just released the Tacx Neo 3M. We've got hold of it along with 6 other Tacx trainers that we're going to put through their paces today. Francis, I hope you've got your turbo legs on. For each of the turbos, we're going to give them a rating out of 10 for 5 categories. Those categories are features, value for money, setup, usability, and ride feel. So every turbo is going to have an overall rating out of 50.
First up is the Antares rollers. This is the cheapest indoor trainer that Tacx do. It's $169.99. It's 3 cylinders with an elastic band going in between them.
Rollers are a bike racer's best friend because you can very easily take them to the crit circuit or the road race, chuck them on the floor, get yourself warmed up. However, they are notoriously hard to learn how to use. I've tried rollers in the past. I'm not a fan. Francis absolutely worships them. In terms of features, which is the first on our scoring system, I'm going to give it a 1 because all they have is the ability to ride. You can just ride a bike on them. There's one feature.
Jimmy has a fair point. It's not exactly the same as riding a bike outdoors. So if you're happy balancing on a normal bicycle, it doesn't mean you're going to be comfortable on a set of rollers. Your front wheel moves everywhere and it takes a while to get used to riding them. So some people might just never get on with them. And that's fair enough. Value for money, we're going to give these a 5 out of 10 because they're well priced. They're very low in features. You can definitely get enough resistance out of a set of rollers like this to do a zone 2 ride. If I put it in the 11, probably zone 3. Obviously it depends on your fitness. So the cylinder of the roller is concave, so it pushes you into the middle of the roller. Some rollers you can get are completely flat, and obviously you can ride off them more easily, which can lead to problems. The setup, both at the start when you unbox them and when you're setting them up to use each time, is really easy. So we're going to give it an 8 out of 10 for setup. Usability, we've had to dock some points for this one purely because some people won't get on with them. 5 out of 10, but if you can use them, they're small, they're easy to carry, they're light. You can take them anywhere you want, and well, I think they're my favourite on this list.
The big plus point for rollers is the ride feel. We've given it 8 out of 10 because it's the only one on the whole thing where you can actually use your handlebars. You have to balance on the rollers, so it's got the closest to actually being out on a real bike.
That gives the Antares a total score of 27 out of 50, if my maths was right. Bonus tip, they also make a slightly more expensive version of these rollers called the Galaxia, which these ones are mine, that's why they're all dirty. They have a rocker plate built in, so they move forwards and backwards very slightly. That would be a couple of points in the ride feel, but they're essentially very similar. Next up is the Boost. This is a wheel-on turbo trainer, which means you leave your wheel on your bike and it rubs against a roller on the back. This comes in at £229. It's not a smart trainer. You manually control the resistance with a little lever on your handlebars, which you clip on. It has 10 different levels and goes right up to 1050 watts. You can also adjust your resistance by changing gear, just like the rollers we showed you before. Going into the scoring system, we've given it a 3 for features, because frankly, it doesn't have many of them. In terms of value for money, we're giving this a 4 out of 10. Which is a pretty low score. You'll see why as we progress with this video, because there are some turbo trainers which just have ludicrous features and we couldn't give it any more points.
For setup, we've given it 3 out of 10 and usability 6 out of 10. It's a good entry-level product. When we first started training, we were both riding turbos that use levers to change resistance like this. The levers do provide some simplicity of use. However, we personally prefer the usability of direct drive trainers. We've given it a 2 out of 10 for ride feel because out of everything in this list, it is the least realistic. Your tire on the roller, it just doesn't feel real. It's good if you just want to replicate resistance. If you don't have loads of space, you want to be able to chuck it away, but it isn't going to feel like a real bike. It's going to feel like a very static bike that doesn't feel very realistic. That gives the Boost a total of 18 out of 50. Let's move on to the start of the first smart trainers. Can we put flames in? No, because you're editing this one, so there's no flames on this one, is there?
Next up, we have the Flow. This is £299.99. It's a wheel-on trainer, just like the last one, but it has a massive upgrade in that it's smart. Smart means that it's a power meter and can connect to apps like Zwift and Trainer Road and all of these bits of software, and it controls the resistance that you feel as you ride it. This opens up a whole world of training opportunities and is frankly a lot less boring than riding a basic trainer. If you do really start to get into your indoor training, this might be the option for you. It's stable up to 800 watts. It simulates inclines up to 6% gradient.
That means that we have given it a score on features as 5 out of 10. We've scored it 8 out of 10 for value for money. I actually think that this is probably the best value for money out of all of these products. It's smart, it can do power, it's going to be more than enough for a lot of people. It's pretty easy to get your bike set up on it in the grand scheme of things. You can use all of the different softwares and other bits and pieces out there. There's a ton of value for money in this product, especially because it's £300. Setup, we've given it 4 out of 10, and usability, we've given it 7 out of 10. You do have to buy an adapter for it to work on a through axle. You have to plug it in, unlike the previous one. So you actually have to make sure there's access to a power supply, but you don't have to put the little clippy doobie wire on your handlebars, which is nice. Oh, but then the negative of that is you then need to connect it to all of your power sensors, your computer, if you want to do the smart stuff, and a heart rate monitor. It's not hard, it will work, but it's all part of the process, you know? Ride feel, we have given it 3 out of 10. It's marginally better than the previous one because it is a smart trainer. It just makes training so much more enjoyable. So that gives a total score out of 50 for the flow of 27. I think that's a very respectable score. Next up is the Flux S. I actually have one of these myself. It costs £599.99, which is quite a bit more than the previous one. It's the first direct drive trainer in the list. What that means is you actually remove your rear wheel from the bike and the bike slots onto the trainer. So it has a little cassette on it, it's all built into it. What we love about direct drive trainers, it feels more realistic. The bike responds so much more with that tension and resistance hitting you directly from the cassette. We like them.
How quiet is this compared? That's crazy. If you're in a flat block of apartments and you need a quiet turbo trainer, it starts here. The other ones are significantly more noisy. What you do need though is a mat of some kind. It doesn't have to be the official Tacx one that we have here, but something with a bit of padding to protect your carpet from sweat, but also stop the vibrations going through the floor, because this is a heavy piece of equipment, and if you're riding a bike on it, it will vibrate a whole house.
It measures power, speed, and cadence with an accuracy of 3%. It can go up to a whopping 1500 watts, which is enough for Francis, but not quite enough for me, but I'll let that slide. And it can simulate gradients up to 10%. This one doesn't have the ability to fold up, and it doesn't have any handles on it, so it can be a bit tricky to move around, but you get used to it. You have to plug it in, and it doesn't have RGB lights. That seems like a normal thing for me to say, that it doesn't have those things, but soon you will understand why.
We're giving the Flux a 7 out of 10 for features, 6 out of 10 for value for money because it is really expensive compared to the previous turbo, 4 out of 10 for setup, 7 out of 10 for usability, and a ride feel of 6 out of 10. The best of the turbo trainers so far. That totals up to 30 out of 50. Not bad.
We have the Neo 2T, which is £1,199.99, also known as £1,200. This is the first turbo in the list that outperforms your ability as a cyclist, and that's why I love it. It's stable up to 2,200 watts, it can simulate gradients of up to 25%, it can simulate descents as well. It's accurate to 1%, which is where you really want it to be. The weird little plate bits that the cassette sits on, they refer to as multi-directional movement plates. So there's actually a little bit of float in the bike, so it just makes it a little bit more comfortable. It's got RGB lights that tell you how hard you're going. It doesn't need to be plugged in. What the hell? This is like the perfect, like where we talk about bikes, we want bikes that you can ride that charge everything on it. This turbo, you can just take it somewhere, stick it on the ground, and it works. However, you don't get all of the immersive features like descent simulation when it's not plugged in. It's direct drive, it's smart, in all the usual way. It's heavy, and therefore it's quite challenging to set up.
This is my turbo from my house, this one, and I've spent many, many miles on it. I've tried yours, which is the Flux, and I do prefer this just because it's a bigger base, so it's more stable. And you do notice that if you're putting down power. So if you're doing sessions which are, I don't know, like sprint sessions or VO2 max sessions where you are actually putting out far more power, then maybe going up a level to one like this is beneficial.
The multi-directional movement platey thingy-majiggies also somehow, I have no idea how, simulate gravel and cobbles on whatever digital training platform you use. Cobbles and gravel simulate, it like vibrates. Cobbles are one of the worst things about cycling. Why would you want your turbo to be able to do that?
I don't know why you don't like it, Jimmy. I enjoy that feature. Which leads us on to the scores. We're giving the 2T 8 out of 10 for features because it has loads of them. It is a massive upgrade compared to the previous turbo. Value for money though is going to struggle because it is also double the price. So 7 out of 10. Setup, we're being pretty harsh on this as well because it's very heavy, 6 out of 10. It is difficult to move around, and if you were at a bike race and you had to bring it from your car to the racetrack, you're gonna struggle. Usability, 8 out of 10. If it's set up in your house and you wanna slap your bike on it, it takes 2 seconds and you're going very, very quickly. You don't even have to plug it in. Ride feel, we're also adding a point, 7 out of 10 here. It simulates cobbles. And the extra movement side to side does make a difference to how it feels to ride. That makes the grand total 36 out of 50.
Ta-da! That was the easiest thing I think I've ever done in my life. Tacx's brand new Neo 3M, which is literally the easiest thing I've ever set up in my life. I can't believe we literally pulled it out with the legs snap into place. Bosh, it's already got a cassette on it. It's already got the right axle on it for our through axle bikes. Even the little stopper thing at the front, you just flip around for road tyres and gravel / mountain bike tyres. It is a very good product. Let's get straight into the features. We have given this 9 out of 10, a whopping 9 out of 10. It's got 2,200 watts of max power, 1% accuracy on speed, power, cadence. It can simulate gradients of 25%. It can connect to all of the smart things that you could ever want to connect it to. It doesn't need a power source. It's got weird color-like things that tell you how much power you're doing, which you'll either love or you'll hate, or you'll either love or you just won't even pay attention to them. It comes with a cassette on it. It's got all of the different adapters that you could possibly need from it. It's got a flippy around thing for your tyre at the front. It rocks back and forth. It's got a handle. What else could you possibly need from a trainer?
One of the things that this turbo does, unlike all the other ones on this list, is that it has built-in motion back and forwards. And you can turn it on and off using these twisty things here and here. Ugh. So if for some reason you wanted a less realistic ride, you could turn them off. I'm gonna keep them on. So in addition to it moving side to side like the 2T, you also have forwards and backwards rocking. It's a comfortable thing to ride.
This turbo is £1,749.99, so we have scored it 6 out of 10 for value for money. So it's come down a little bit on the previous one because that is a lot of money. For setup, we initially ranked this at 7 out of 10 before we actually pulled it out of the box. So we were basing that from our previous experience or our own personal experience of the 2T. Having now actually unboxed this, we have pushed it up to 9 out of 10. The only reason it hasn't got 10 out of 10 is because the lovely people at Garmin didn't turn up here and unbox it for us.
Usability, we're giving it a 9 out of 10. It would be a 10 out of 10 if it wasn't so heavy, but on the plus side, you can use this for your bicep curls. Ride feel, it's got to be a 10 out of 10. It's the most realistic turbo trainer that we've ever ridden. No, it's not exactly like riding outside, but this is the closest that you're gonna get. Total score, a whopping 43 out of 100. Why is it out of 50?
This is the Tacx Neo Bike Plus trainer. It is £3,499.99, which is more expensive than probably most people's bikes. It's actually kind of not a turbo trainer. It's more than a turbo trainer. It's more of like a tool to become a better cyclist. So it has pedal analysis that you just don't get from other devices. It can tell you, it knows where your leg is in the pedal stroke. I don't know how it does that, but it is incredibly detailed. Although it doesn't actually have a drivetrain like on a traditional bike, it actually has proper working shifters that go through a range of gears like real ones. And you can program it so it actually feels and acts like Shimano, SRAM or Campag, whatever your chosen group set is. It is a very niche product. It's for the kind of household that probably has multiple people that are doing bike training. You can adjust the fit for each one of those people doing it. They're gonna have probably relatively complex needs and they're going to want a lot of detail. They're probably very serious athletes, or they're just really rich and they want a turbo trainer in their house that they don't have to hook their bike up to. Although the list of features on this bike are extensive and you would probably expect us to give it a 10 out of 10, we haven't. We've marked it down by 1 to 9 out of 10 because what it does lack is that ride feel. It doesn't have the motion plates on either the forwards and backwards motion plates like the 3M, or the movability in the cassette bit of it like the other smart trainers. It doesn't ride, therefore, as nice as the other turbos, but there are lots of other features that might be of interest to you. Once you've got your fit set up, everyone in your household can know what numbers you set all your componentry to. You can change the saddle forward and back in relation to the pedals. You can change the crank length by screwing it into different holes. You can change the saddle height. You can put a different saddle on it. You can change the handlebars. You can put them further forward, closer to you, further down, further up. You can literally replicate the fit of any possible bike. And by jotting all those numbers down, everyone in your household can adjust it to their own fit. However, value for money, we have knocked it down quite considerably to 5 out of 10, simply because it's 3.5 grand. You can buy a car for that. We've given it a 4 out of 10 for setup because when it arrived, I'm pretty sure it was about 70 kilos. The weight of it is aggressive. It is so huge and you have to properly put it together, all the different bits and pieces. It's definitely not like the 3M, which was boop, out of the box. You're gonna have to commit to getting this thing set up and you're gonna need to make sure you can get it into the room that you want it in for the first place. This one, I'm pretty confident is never gonna leave this space. The usability is 8 out of 10 because once it is set up, it works. You don't have to plug it in if you don't want it. Whatever your fit is, you're gonna get it. You don't need to worry about cassette or axle compatibility because it all just works. It's even got fans. It just works really well. We've given it a ride feel of 8 out of 10 because you can get it into whatever position you absolutely want it to get it into, and the shifting on it really does feel like real shifting, which I was surprised at. That gives it an overall score of 34 out of 50. Based on the table, the winner is the Neo 3M. However, that isn't necessarily going to be the best turbo for everyone. Think about the riding that you're going to be doing, think about your needs, have a think about the features that are actually important to you, and then factor that into the amount of money that you want to spend on your indoor trainer.
The used market for turbo trainers is really good. You're not going to have a problem selling yours on if you buy a lower end model and then really get into your riding and want to upgrade. So always consider that as an option too. Let us know in the comment section, what's your favourite turbo of the lot? Have you got any of these? Thank you as always for watching, and please subscribe to this channel for more.
Please tell Francis in the comments down below how horrible rollers are.
Incorrect. Also, the camera's pointing the wrong way.